My people, good morning. I'm Gregory. This is 1 in 20 D&D, and welcome to DnDaily. Ooh, that's a tongue twister sometimes. Welcome to DnDaily number 43. Hey, good morning. I'm feeling great today. We had an awesome session last night for our Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening game, whatever you want to call it, and it was super fun. I'm really enjoying how our small little group of four of us is kind of gelling in the sense of like, man, we just had some awesome gameplay yesterday. It was so much fun. And that's what I ultimately feel like that's the pinnacle of measuring your games. You know, whatever game you're playing, any role-playing game or tabletop game that you're playing, even if you get angry or frustrated or sad or whatever, if you're having a good time and the overarching feeling of playing is fun, then you're doing something right. So keep doing that. And yesterday, at least for me, yesterday was super fun. And I'm pretty sure, kind of based on some of the laughter and feedback and whatnot of the session, that everybody was having a good time. The characters are all sort of feeling their characters out. We're a few sessions in, about half a dozen sessions in now, so they're starting to kind of get the character and personality a little bit better. Some of the voices are still a little off in ways and whatever, but not everybody wants to do a voice and needs to do a voice. So that is a minor part of playing the game of D&D. What's more important is understanding the mechanics of your character, I think, for combat and for exploration and skills and stuff. And also just understanding, like, who is this person? What's their motivations? What are they looking for? Those basic primary questions that help you to develop the character in the first place. So, just a great session all around. One of the cool things that happened last night, partly because of some of the wacky stuff that happened during the session that involved, let's say, floating bodies and other such things, that we had a great discussion sort of at the end of the session, like the last 5 or 10 minutes before we all said our goodbyes and whatnot. We had a great conversation about alignment and what that means and how it is it important in the game, what does it dictate, and so forth. So I guess I had no idea this would be my topic today, but I think for a moment here, I'm going to share my little bit of theory or idea or perspective about alignment. And it has changed hugely over the years. So let me explain how. As I've mentioned before, I've been playing D&D for a long time, like 30 plus years. So back in the day, I would always take the alignment as one of the creation steps of your character. You would set your alignment based on how you intended to play the character, and then it was sort of like hard and fast. So if you're playing a paladin, it's gonna be lawful good. If you're playing a druid, they're gonna be neutral. And then the challenge was to stay within that kind of alignment. Now, honestly, in the games I played for like the first 20-ish years or more of my gaming career, whatever you want to call it, or of my gaming journey, it actually never really played that much into what was important. The only time alignment ever seemed to factor was like if we were facing something that we were concerned about and we used like not necessarily a no alignment spell, but like a detect evil spell. That was really kind of the only way alignment filtered into our games. So what's fascinating is now we always picked our alignments, and I guess most of us tried to stay true to them or whatnot, but it was a very minor element of our games. Now, fast forward, last 5 or so years that I've been playing, where like 4th edition and then 5th edition, really not important at all in my 4th edition play, because most of those games were one-shots where we didn't really get to develop the characters very much. Even if you used the same character over the course of a couple sessions, I was playing, this was the Adventure League, and this was at at a game shop and so forth with players that were fairly regular, but it was still, even the characters that I might use for multiple sessions, there still wasn't that same kind of throughput or that continuity feeling you get from running a campaign with a character. So now in my 5th edition games, whether I'm a player or a DM, the alignment has a little more to factor into the gameplay. Mostly I'm seeing it more as the DM, to be completely honest. And here's what's fascinating to me. 2 big things about how I think alignment has changed from, past editions of D&D and past gameplay that I experienced and to where I think the state of the game is right now. First is that the way you play your character dictates your alignment, not the other way around. So your alignment, it should speak to how you play your character, but that's sort of like a guideline you pick at the beginning. But if you pick a neutral character who's constantly doing underhanded stuff, murder and stealing and all these kind of things, that you're moving towards neutral evil whether you realize it or not. So as a DM, I might have that discussion with you at some point of like, hey man, you've been doing some pretty dark stuff, and I don't think your character's really a neutral character. Likewise, if you pick a neutral good character who is like constantly doing things that are good, like you're helping people and that sort of thing, but you're like breaking the law and you're not following what the other members of the group want to do because you're doing your own thing, whether the party agrees to it or not. Like, you're definitely not neutral good. You're really more chaotic good. And again, as a good DM, we should probably discuss that kind of thing with our players. So that's sort of what we did last night. So that's number one is I learned, and I've kind of discovered over the last few months, few years, that like the way you play your character dictates your character's alignment much more than the alignment that you choose for your character at the beginning of the game. And characters grow and develop, so there's absolutely nothing wrong. If you're playing a long campaign, it's completely likely, or at least it's potential, that your character's alignment will change. There's nothing wrong with that, and I would say that's absolutely natural. If you're playing in a campaign where one of your party members who you've grown close to, your character, I should say, has grown close to, dies, that's probably going to affect your character. And you might become this darker, more sinister, more brooding, more angry person. That would probably affect your alignment. It doesn't have to. It's just a suggestion. It's just something that you might find happening in your game. So that's the number one. The way you play your character dictates your alignment. Your alignment doesn't necessarily dictate the way you play your character, but it could. Number two, the other thing that this is super recent, and I wish I could remember. I think it was Matt Colville who I heard say this first. So I'm going to go ahead and give him credit. Whoever said it first, thank you, because I think it's brilliant. And here's the idea. So we have this alignment. There's a spectrum of alignments. From lawful good to lawful evil, from chaotic evil to lawful evil, and from chaotic neutral to lawful neutral, with true neutral in the middle, which is probably the hardest really to play overall. So in that spectrum, everybody's seen probably, or if you haven't, there is a chart that you can find that has the nine alignments that we use in gaming, at least in Dungeons and Dragons, but other systems use a similar, if not the same system as well. In that spectrum, let's take lawful good, it's easy. In that spectrum, lawful good, there is a spectrum within lawful good. And the way it was explained is very simple. Do you play your character lawful good, or do you play your character lawful good? which end do you weight? Which end of the spectrum are you weighting? Is it the law? Do you absolutely follow the law no matter what? Even if the law seems cruel and evil, like a tax on peasants who are starving because they can't pay the tax, but the tax is the law, and you make sure and enforce that law. Or is it like you follow the law to the best of your ability, and you generally do, you will go along with the group's, mission and objectives and decisions, as long as you're doing things for the good, which means you're kind of like you're trying to lessen the darkness in the world and bring more light into the world. Same thing with lawful evil. You can play a lawful evil character who follows the rules. If you're in an organization, you follow the chain of command. This is what's great from Matt Colville's new game, The Chain. This is kind of what I'm learning, and I love it. The Chain is a mercenary organization. There's a character named Judge in the game who is lawful evil, but lawful evil. So lawful being that she follows orders. She does what her commanders tell her to do. She follows the rules. But she's evil in the sense that there's a dark side to her. She has her patron, the deity she's connected with is Asmodeus, one of the darkest, most evil creatures, fiends, powers in the verse, in this world that we, the multiverse of the game world, or of Dungeons and Dragons. So her evilness, another way to think of evil could be selfishness. Like, how selfish are you? A good person is going to be very generous, very giving, very humble, very helpful. An evil person might just be really damn selfish. They don't help anyone unless they're paid for it. Even then, they might not do it unless they think that they're going to get something huge to gain from it. They might just be tremendously self-serving and selfish. One of the guys that's playing with me last night, Sam, said that to me last night. I'm like, yeah, that he thinks of his character as just a very self-serving and selfish character, which informed the alignment he chose. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I get that. So we had a discussion at the table last night, which was great. We were a few sessions in. It could have been in our session 0, but last night was the perfect moment. We all had a talk about our alignments, what they mean, and whether or not everybody's been more or less playing that alignment true to the alignment. And it was awesome. So I highly suggest that you guys do this in your games. I think it'll really help your players. And if you're a player, have this discussion with the other players as well as the DM. Sam said to me point blank, he said last night, I am not going to try to screw over the party. I view these two guys as individuals who can help me to get where I want to go, to fulfill my goals and my ambitions. So I'm not going to do anything to screw them over. And that, to me, is brilliant role-playing. That's how you play an evil character without wrecking the game. Because that happens. The cliche rogue who steals from the party, who backstabs the party figuratively, not literally, but sometimes, but more literally. It's cliche, it's a trope, it's boring, in my opinion. It's fun, I guess, for a little while, so maybe once in a while as a joke, that's cool. But if that's your MO, that's not a really exciting, interesting character as an evil character, and it's going to screw up the game on some level. Somebody else probably will not be having fun. Every game is different, every group is different, so there are probably groups out there where that is a perfect fit. It's certainly not a fit in the game that we're playing in my games. And I just commend Sam for his decision. And I learned something from our talk last night, so I'm stoked. I feel like it made me a better D&D player. And that's ultimately why I started doing this DnDaily in the first place. To help share my thoughts and ideas, to help maybe some of you all become better D&D players, but also ultimately because by processing these thoughts about this game that I love, it's helping me become a better D&D player and a better DM. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, Matt Colville, and everyone else that is developing this stuff and helping us all figure these things out about alignment. Well, that's about all I got to say today. I went a little bit longer than usual because, wow, man, that was an exciting talking topic for me. Thanks for hanging out and sticking along for the ride. I'll see you tomorrow with another great video. Until then, I'll see you at a table sometime and keep rolling 20s.